There's going to be a few changes. This is going to be the tier list that we had when Artist was released. We're actually going to change it up now. I'm going to revamp it, kind of go over it. Remember, we're doing this with like no add-ons. Add-ons gets a little bit more tricky. You can always say killers are better with certain add-ons. There's a lot of argument. Remember, this is just my opinion, but we're going to update the list a little bit. From my games and from what I played, I actually am going to move Spirit out of S tier. And I'm going to bring her down. I'm just going to bring her down to A tier for now. I don't think Spirit's S tier anymore. When we don't talk about Mother-Daughter Ring or like add-ons in general, a lot of decent players don't have an issue with Spirit. Like she can't down fast enough. So I am going to move her down. I do think Pyramid Head is just better than her in general. I don't know if Hag is necessarily better than her. She is pretty decent, but her chase potential is really kind of fallen. But she doesn't have any map dependency, so I don't find her going to be nearly as weak as Huntress or Plague on certain maps, which is going to be really helpful. That's the first little change we're going to make to this tier list. Second thing that I really want to move is we're going to be moving Artist pretty much right up to here. I think Artist is probably one of the current best killers in the game. She does suffer on larger maps, but that'd be the same thing to say about Hag. Her down potential is very high. She does have a lot of pressure from range, which is really nice. She doesn't need add-ons to have pressure from range, which is good. She can zone off extremely well. She does everything a killer needs to do to be effective. Doesn't matter how good of a survivor you are, you know, she can kind of play around it. So she has that capability, but she doesn't have the same chase capability as someone like Pyramid Head. And he also can kind of use it to, you know, his torment to actually send survivors instead of going to like worrying about DS, he can just negate it. So she's not going to be onto that level. Again, Pyramid Head always has the potential. If he had just mobility, he'd be S tier. But he doesn't have that mobility, so he's definitely not there currently. I do see Artist being better than Spirit when we're talking about no add-ons. Again, if you go to add-ons, Mother-Daughter, Spirit goes back to S tier. But that's just the case with that one. Going back and forth between Bubba and Oni, I am going to actually move Bubba back down to B tier. I'm going to move at the top of B tier currently. I do like Bubba. I think Bubba is definitely on the cusp of A and B tier. And I do think he has probably more consistency than Oni. The problem is that Oni just has so much like potential to change the pacing of a game. Even without add-ons, they're both really solid. Bubba's still really good, but the thing that kills Bubba the most is that like when you start making your way to a gen, assuming you don't have like Tinker or Undetectable or anything like that, Survivor's just gonna walk away. Like they'll just run away, get massive distance. It's gonna be a real big problem. And it's just something that Oni doesn't have to worry as much about. As soon as Oni gets that first hit, he has capability of winning the game. Bubba has one of the best camping in the game, if you want to use it that way. He's definitely one of the best at camping, but I'm going to definitely move him out of A tier for now. We'll see how it kind of goes up as the game shifts, but a lot of maps are larger right now, so mobility kind of becomes king, and Bubba just doesn't have that. Eerie of Crows really brought in just, again, the majority of your maps you're going to be playing on are actually pretty large. That hurts any killer without mobility. I still think Pinhead's fine. I don't see Pinhead being A tier. I can't see it. I've seen some of the better Pinheads play. They land a lot of things, but you know, the pre-drop and run, he has great slowdown, which is amazing, but it's not exactly like a difficult challenge to loop him, even when he does land his power. If we move over to Twins, I think Twins placement's good. Nemesis is good. Twins is just clunky. I think right now, though, Nemesis is better than Twins. So I'll go over why. Boone Exponential is starting to see a little bit more play. Boone Circle of Healing. These are things that really kind of counter out the Twins playstyle of being in multiple places at once, because you're not able to provide enough pressure now that people can just pick up and recover so quickly. So it does hurt her. Demogorgon's fine. I still think he's better than Deathslinger. Deathslinger's fine where he's at. Again, he's pretty solid. Billy, still the high end of C tier, so he's looking pretty good. Doctor's pretty okay. And that's where we start trying to fall off from here, is where do we kind of go from there. Trickster, I think, is better than Freddy. Freddy's good with teleportation, but outside of that, that's all he really has right now. With so many safe loops being in the game, Freddy just gets basically demolished as time goes on. Legion's good. His pressure's there. Wraith, fine. I still think Legion provides more pressure early, but Wraith has a better closeout. I would say these two are pretty close. Legion's ability to injure so many survivors early on and get them mending, it's a slowdown mechanic that he has at like free will. So it's something that he just gets a lot of value from. We'll go to Wraith. Trapper, definitely D tier. Pig, D tier for sure. Pig is pretty decent. I just don't think she can down fast enough. And Trapper can always rely on a 3-4 gen strat and actually pretty much put to good use. As long as he doesn't get seen early. But that's the problem with Trapper. That's why he can't ever really be higher. The moment like you spawn in and there's just a survivor watching you, you just like almost insta lose the game, which feels really bad. Because he'll follow you around and pop your traps. Pig's looking good. I still think Pig's stealth is better than Clown, and she has slowdown mechanic, which definitely helps her compared to Clown. Clown, I think, would down faster than Myers will, even though Myers has an exposed mechanic. He's just very outdated. And then Ghostface, of course, without add-ons, is a stealth killer without stealth. And, you know, that doesn't... It's still not hard, even with all the fixes. It's not hard at the moment. He's really dying for that rework. As far as Sadako, the one issue that we're going to be having is that she's just not that strong. I don't mind that she's not strong. I think she needs a little bit of love. I think she's a lot of fun. Probably one of the most fun killers currently. But I actually think she falls in right behind Wraith. I think Wraith is still better. He can deny loops by getting in front of survivors. He can sneak up on survivors. Sadako still has an issue with actually starting chase. One of the things that stealth killers do really, really well is they start chase and they get that first hit. Sadako has the exact opposite problem. You can see her from 24 meters, and not only that, she has a lullaby. So once survivors pick that up, they're totally fine. When we talk about teleport plays, it's so projected that survivors can see you teleporting, even if you do it right in front of them, walk the other way, and actually gain distance on you. This is when we're talking without add-ons. So it's right now she's not in a good spot. I don't mind that she's in a bad spot per se. I just wish she was a little bit better, a little bit more smooth. I think her teleport cooldown mechanic needs to be really chopped. It's 100 seconds if you teleport to a gen and doesn't get turned back on. So it's very easy to make that mistake. She is a macro killer, which falls in line with all of my favorite killers. Again, most of my favorite killers are in this line here. They're more macro oriented, and that's because they don't really have a lot of chase potential. So you have to really play the game out slow and keep an eye on your 3 gens. But I don't think she's ever going to get to that B tier unless she sees some like serious buffs. But I don't know if she necessarily needs serious buffs. I would like to see a few buffs, and outside of that, I think she's fine. This is my current thought. We'll see what happens over, the course of the next few months. I just wanted to update the tier list, kind of really get it going. Blight, Nurse are always going to be the king and queen right now of solo queue, swift queue. It doesn't matter. Those two are the only 2 killers in the game that can win any game so long as they play right. Nurse has a little bit higher potential because she ignores all the rules, and Blight can actually play around so long as he's good enough. So this is the current tier list. These are the changes I think move. Spirit, again, can always hover. Spirit might be better than Hag here. I might mess with this a little bit more. I don't think Spirit's better than Artist right now at a base level. It's even from my games, when you start going against even decent Spirits, it just doesn't matter. She can't down in time. And she can't traverse as fast. All the bigger maps are hurting her too. Remember, the larger the maps get, the killers who don't have a way of dealing with it start to suffer. And Spirit is one of those killers, even though she can traverse a little quicker. It's not as well as Blight or Nurse. And Hag doesn't have to traverse at all because she can just build a spider web and stay safe within the area. So I think this is where we're at. I still think she's better than Plague and Huntress and Oni. And she's still one of the best killers in the game so long as you play her right. But outside of that, I think she's a lot more overrated for people who are putting her in S tier now when we talk about add-ons not included. But that's going to be it. That's my thoughts. Feel free to let me know what you think, and we'll discuss it from here on out. What we got? Hag overrated? She's not, though. She's one of the few killers who can down within like 15 seconds. And she can also camp from afar. So she has kind of like the best of all the worlds. Why do people have twins so low, though? It's just because of the current setup. Boons are in play. Twins would be better if they didn't have so much time delay on their abilities. As soon as Twins gets a buff, they pretty much straight up go to A and S tier. Like, that's the one thing. Twins is like one of the underrated dogs. But again, the moment Twins gets like a slight buff, they bounce up tremendously. But the problem is that right now we have boons. So like you have 1 exponential 2, Circle of Healing. Both of these really hinder the Twins playstyle. Boons do hurt them, but they hurt everyone. Yeah, but they completely demolish like the Twins separate A playstyle. So like the way to play against Twins whenever you're playing against them is you go into 2 and 2, right? So when you go into 2 and 2, if there's a boon set up and you happen to hit somebody, like how is Huntress better than Twins? Huntress has better downing potential. She has worse struggles on maps, and yeah, don't be wrong. Twins is that killer who can definitely hover. Again, the moment you go against a good Twins, it feels bad. But the problem is that the only time the Twins can really do well is if the survivors are making mistakes as well. She has, again, the moment Twins gets a buff, they skyrocket to A and S tier. I just don't think right now they're in that position, especially when we're talking no add-ons. Legion is S tier, please don't tell me the truth, right? Again, the argument for sure, I can always see Twins booming up to S tier. Like, I love Twins. I know that, like, the potential of Twins, but the one thing that you have to remember with the Twins right now is they are completely hindered. I've looked at a lot of the top-notch, like, Twins players and watching them. The big struggle right now is boons for them. Boons are killing them, along with, obviously, everyone running Dead Hard right now. Like, the one thing you also look at, we're not talking comp. In comp, Twins would be probably A and S tier. Because you don't have quadruple Dead Hard, Unbreakable, like the stuff that really throws the game out. Twins just can't handle it. If you have Unbreakable and you have Exponential, or if you have Unbreakable in general and you're just breaking off into 2s, Twins is countered. But Twins has, again, a single buff to Twins or just like making them feel better to play, they're going to be booming up to like A and S tier. Twins, when they first came out, I actually had closer to S tier. Because there's no play around Victor. The only play around Victor is you hope that Twins messes up. So they actually have a power that isn't reliant on survivors. But like as soon as you hit the comp mode, like again, you're going to be hitting right there. Like that's such a hard part. I love Twins. And again, Twins would have so much value. But the picture I'm looking at is like, there's always a boon in every match, right? Let's assume there's always a boon. Because right now it's in 90% of our games. We all know it. But let's just say it's Circle of Healing. You down them with Victor when they're in Circle of Healing. If you are, let's just say 30 meters away, which isn't far away for them to actually run and you to deploy Victor and hit them. Like, that's because someone can just walk over and heal them before you ever get there to pick them up. Not to mention, now you have travel time to have to get over there and pick them up. That's something that people don't talk about. The travel time is what really hurts Twins too. Like, so let's say you are playing Twins. You down somebody with Victor, you're 20 meters away, whatever have you. You have to walk there, pick them up, hook them. Or you have to play the slug game, which is what most Twins do because you can't hook people quick enough now. Where you send Victor out, go hit somebody else, create pressure there, and then pick up and hook. But we'll play more with Twins. I'll see if maybe there's some way that Twins can play around the boons. I just don't think right now that like Twins can handle the boon meta. Again, that changes once like Twins gets a little bit of love. I only play 3 killers, and I love seeing 2 of them in A, but poor Pig. Yeah. Pig's at D tier, but again, that just comes down to like her ability to actually end a chase is so bad. She's just outdated. Look at like every killer here, and the bottom is just outdated. Like, Trapper's been outdated for a long time simply because of like the few issues you have, but he has one of the best 3-gen defenses in the game, so long as he gets set up. Like, he's fine being not a good killer. And then Pig is completely like outdated. She needs something more. But she's not a bad killer because of her slowdown. So she's kind of able to slide through these like cracks of being okay for being a bad killer. Clown sucks. The only thing that sucks about playing against Clown is literally the fact that you like might have to pre-drop every now and then. Myers is easy to play around. Ghostface easy to play around. Like it is what it is. You only get caught off if you're making mistakes. Like the moment where it becomes more about survivor mistakes, you go into C tier and below. Bubba can actually catch you off guard in end games. Like Pinhead, he can catch you. He has so much slowdown that you have to deal with his power. Honestly, Pinhead could go downwards. I don't think he's that good. I think he's overrated. His slowdown's okay. I think slowdown, though, again, when we talk about the high MMR, I think it's fine to have him here. But the moment he goes against like competent Swift, he falls apart. Why is Ghostface the worst killer? So when we talk about no add-ons, Ghostface has a very, very long cooldown for his stealth mechanic. When we talk about high MMR scenario, he's not going to be able to maintain his stealth mechanic. Even with an expose effect, he really just comes down to a basic M1 killer who doesn't have a stealth mechanic and has a 32-meter terror radius without it. So he falls apart pretty quick. Myers, even though that Myers has like a worse stalk mechanic than Ghostface in terms of like the 1v1 potential, he has a much better stealth mechanic. So Nem is better than Doctor? Oh yeah, Nemesis is really good. Like, you don't need tier 3 with Nemesis to be like really, really solid. You only need tier 2 because you can break pallets so fast and zone survivors. Spirit is going to hover within that A tier on the same level as Artist. Artist is good. Artist is overwhelmingly can be very, very strong. Even when we're not talking about perks, she has the potential to be very, very like pressure heavy. She can do a lot of pressure very, very quickly, but there are some maps that do hurt her. So I guess I would probably do something like this. There are maps that hurt Artists, like indoor, like upstairs and downstairs. She is not map dependent, but there are maps that will hurt her like pretty bad. Batum kills her really hard. She can still play around it, so I would actually say like there we can go with like Spirit above Artist because Spirit doesn't really have bad maps. Like yeah, big maps hurt her, but big maps hurt all killers, and Artist can play decent on big maps, but she's still, the whole W meta still kills her there. Does healing meta hurt or help Legion? Actually, he doesn't suffer too bad from the current boon. Legion's one of the ones like why he's where he's at. He's not below Wraith or something is because he's not as hindered by the boon meta. Because like one, healing against Legion's bad, so he's just getting extra pressure by you healing. Two, he still has game slowdown by his mend, so he gets a lot of value from you healing, and he can injure you faster than any killer here because he can vault and then tag you well in frenzy and move on. So he's actually better than Wraith in that sense. The moment like boons, like if they ever were to remove like boon circle of healing though, Wraith skyrockets back to like high C tier. You definitely have to hold forward against Artist, but the problem is that she can't actually outplay the hold forward. If she's like, if we're assuming everyone's playing like optimally. I think that's the extent of it, guys. I think that's fair. Yeah, the only change I had to the tier list from once we start talking was moving Spirit above Artist due to map dependency. Again, Artist is going to be more hindered by certain maps where Spirit isn't. And Spirit does have reliable downing. Like she can down survivors reliably quick, where Artist can down survivors very quick, but it's not always reliable.